All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are in today for push, and this is the first session I've done in the gym since I competed for the first time this season over the past weekend. You guys will have seen a little bit of a more sort of like raw update, reflection, post-show in terms of like how I'm feeling and how that show day went. But for those who haven't seen it, just a little bit of an overview. I'm feeling really good. I'm excited to be back in. I've only done one session so far post-show, which was legs the other day, back in for push now. I'm competing again next weekend. So it's a case of, in this time frame, just continuing to step forward. So we've really got this first little run of shows where we're just gonna gradually improve and just learn through the peak weeks, through the looks, kind of where we want to be, and continually finding where my best and most competitive look is and trialing different things out, which is exciting, and I'm really enjoying that. And I've had a good amount of time to obviously reflect a little bit as well, kind of coming off the back of last weekend. So I'm feeling in a really good headspace and just looking forward to this next week ahead. So we are kind of just pulling me back down a little bit more, just continuing to get a bit leaner, which was the goal with the season. Was we start out with one look and then we actually have room to kind of improve in conditioning as we go along, or find where that perfect look is for figure. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, is I'm kind of pulling down. Training is just as usual at the moment, so I've got a normal push session today. Overall, as I said, I'm feeling good. I've had a good amount of time to reflect, and as a result today, I kind of want to talk to you guys about some things that I think I've been able to take away from my off season, because as you all know, I took 4 years off in between my last show and my first show and the show that I literally just did the past weekend. And there's a lot of really good stuff that I think now I can, take a step back and realize how much I've kind of learned and gained coming through that off season. There might be some of you guys that I hope are able to maybe look at the progress that I've made from bikini to then making that debut in figure, and see okay, you want to commit to a long off season, or you might want to just be committing to a long off season for whatever the reason is, and hopefully I can give you some good insights in that. So stay tuned in the video, because we will run through that at the end, but we will crack on with the session for today. Hope you guys enjoy following along. So for this session today, as I mentioned, it's very much just similar to my usual session, because nothing's changed. I'm still not growing, which I think sometimes you come away from a show, maybe if you're in a season, and you might feel really motivated, or you might think, oh, I want to improve this or that, but you're still not in a position where you're growing. If you really come away from shows and you're I need to improve, that's where you go into an improvement phase. But don't start coming in and doing loads of new, possibly stupid shit, because you're not in a position, you're still in a deficit, you're not in a position to get the benefit out of that. So there's some things I see in my physique that obviously I need to improve, but right now this is the baseline of muscle mass that I'm working with, so I need to make sure that I continue to hold on to this as best as possible. And that's going to come through me continuing to do all of the same best quality work that I have been doing. So whilst it's tempting, maybe, when the season starts, just make sure that you still keep that same focus with training as you need to. You can keep the vision for the things that you want to improve when that improvement season comes around. A little bit of a tip for laterals, because as much as I do this all the time, I know that a lot of people do struggle with this and don't often implement it, is when you find that the cuffs are just moving all over your forearm, it's really annoying because you don't have that stable point. If you think about if you were on a machine, you push your forearm and your forearm against the machine, it would stay in place. Whereas if you come on a cuff, sometimes it slips wrap. So what you want to do is make sure you're wearing your wrist wraps. You put the cuff above where the wrist straps are, and ideally if you've got a hoodie as well, you can kind of basically use the two as a little bit of a barrier, and then it just stops it from moving around so much through the set. Then you've got that stable base point there, and you can just focus on doing the actual lateral or something. do always really like to start my session with some form of lateral or really like a Y raise, which is what I've subbed for here, because I used to just do like a standard lateral, because obviously prioritising a little bit of side delt work. But I like the Y raise and doing this in general because it essentially just kind of warms up my overall shoulders, which like then leads me nice and safely into my presses. And it helps with like mobility as well. So it's just like that actual movement of going like this and actually going kind of like overhead in that motion, which is something that a lot of people struggle with, is kind of just like going safely into these ranges of motion and feeling strong there. So there's a lot of benefits of doing things like this other than just, you know, muscularity development. And that's often a big thing with training programming in general. It's like, it's not just about stimulus or, you know, training this muscle group. It's like, how does the flow of the session work to also, you know, help keep you safe or allow you to be stronger or more powerful in other movements. So usually there's a reason why things are programmed there, or there's maybe ways that you could set things up to give you more benefits than just, you know, the muscularity and stimulus from it as well. Smith press next. A couple of very like key things to keep in mind if you've got a Smith press in the program is firstly take time in the setup. Once it's nailed, but because it's obviously not fixed like a machine, it can be a little bit different every time. So you need to make sure that your seat's exactly where it needs to be, you're aligned where you need to be. You need to make sure that wrist joint, elbow joint nice and stacked, and take your time with the warm-ups to make sure that that is solid. Another thing that I see people do on the Smith press is they're kind of like battling to have a stable base point into the floor. So they sometimes end up in a position like this, where they're like really arched and they've not actually even got their feet locked down. So start always in most movements like feet up. You want to create stability from the floor upwards. So nice solid foot drive into the floor, flat feet. If you're wearing Crocs, take them off. All my clients know I'm always telling them to take their Crocs on. I don't think they're too happy with me about it, but you need a solid base point through the floor. And then when you actually look at your position here, we're not powerlifters, yeah, so we're not trying to create as much mechanical advantage as possible like this. You want your sternum elevated, but you still actually need to be braced, and your spine should still be pretty neutral, because otherwise you're just out of this like neutral position, and then you can't, like, how can you brace properly like when you're like this? And you're also then not in a position where you're able to get a nice full stretch in your pecs, because you're just putting yourself in a mechanical advantage position where the bar just gets closer to your chest rather than actually getting more of a stretch. So those are just a couple of the main sort of things I see people struggle with the most, or like go wrong with the Smith press. So just a few things to keep in mind there. Yeah, come on. No problems, come on. All day. Yeah, take your time, go on. Take your time, Octane, let's go. Again. Again, come on. One. Take your fucking time. I'm through. Yeah, all the way. Lovely. That was nice.
Yeah, I kind of like it a bit more glutey. It's like kind of like a Dorian deck, a bit more glutey.
Yeah, I've got good glutes, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm such a hamstring dominant puller. That's what I've noticed.
Super hanging ham.
I've got more hamstring than I have got glutes.
Huh? You have, yeah. Super hanging ham.
Fucking honestly. 90% of our coaching relationship is just pure sarcasm and satire and comedy.
Yeah. Good. Come on. Perfect. And again. Yes. 1. Let's go. Yeah. Nice. Very good. Very good.
Lovely. Oh, my delts and pecs are actually the one thing that's actually like quite sore since Sunday. So what day is it today? Wednesday? Thursday? It's Thursday. But on Sunday, I basically did a full day of push training because it was like pre-judge and final show. So it was essentially from like 1:30 up until then 6 p.m, something like that. I was basically pumping up, because I did 2 classes as well. So it was just like pump up, pose, off stage, pump up, on stage, off stage, pump up again. So like I was pretty battered, to be honest. So it's only been 4 days since that, and usually I actually have 5 days between push sessions. And I trained push twice last week. So yeah, feeling a little bit sore, but we're okay. Nothing's as bad as my legs, because we trained legs for the first time in 8 days on Tuesday, and they're feeling a bit sore. But it's very nice to be back in the gym. Like, it's weird because I feel weird when I don't train. Like, I just don't feel like myself. Obviously, like, show day's part of bodybuilding and competing, but you have to adjust your training around the shows. You probably have to train with a little bit less intensity or taking extra rest days. And for me, it's weird because I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like a bodybuilder when I'm not training, but it's part of the process. But it means that when I then come back into the gym in between shows, like, I'm just even happier to be here, which is nice. I know I'll keep you guys updated with how the season goes along, and people have asked me and kind of said, you know, like, how are you going to feel training in between the shows? I mean, at the minute, I feel mint, but I think that's because I just love training. Like, I love being here, you know. Yeah, you have your days where you feel draggy, but like, the weekend makes me realise that this is what makes me me. Like, this is why I love bodybuilding, so it's nice to appreciate that. So I actually do 2 sets on there with the same load. Just because if I go a little bit lighter, I end up doing like a really higher rep set for my back off, which we've also learned from me relative to like a few shoulder issues I've had. When I do really high rep work with like anything that's moderately overhead, it starts to kind of just aggravate my shoulder a little bit. So it's just kind of like smart sets there. And also, sometimes when you do a really high rep set, it's more fatiguing, especially when you're maybe a bit lighter and you're eating a bit less, than it is for you to do something that's still like a smart rep range. Like, that was 7 reps, so I'm not talking like stupidly low. But it's more fatiguing doing something like that, and it's also more like glycogen demanding as well, so you probably just feel a bit smashed at the end of it. So it's all about like finding the balance of what works for you, really. And that's where, if you're unsure of loading on things like that, you know, like, that's where you have like your coach or someone that you can go back and forth with and say, like, look, these are what my numbers are looking like. What do we think is going to be the smartest set? This is how I feel. And then you can make some good decisions from that. One thing is for certain, and this is not just something I've learned in my off-season, this is just general, is that if anything is going to stop you from getting massive, it's going to be stress. If you look at pretty much all the people that get big and make great progress, they don't stress about things that don't matter. Like, the people who get on a piece like this and worry massively about whether one strength profile is going to give them the most gains versus the other one, or if it's going to limit the strength profile of the whole session, those are the people that aren't going to be getting big. Realistically, there's a time and place where things like that can actually be applied, but most of the people that I have met, and this is the benefit of like me just meeting so many of the best natural bodybuilders like in the world. It's why I go to so many shows and meet these people so I can learn from them, is that they're generally just very relaxed. Like, they're very relaxed, they work hard and they train hard and they apply themselves 100%, but they do not stress. Like, stress is the killer of progress. So like, yeah, if you want to learn certain things and apply them, amazing. If you want to logbook and you want to do all of these things to level up your progress, fantastic. But if it's causing you stress, that's something that you need to assess big time, because this should be enjoyable. The more that you enjoy it, the more that you just get after it and you work hard, I promise you, the more progress you will make. Yeah. No. Oh, that's sometimes where it's nice to have like some of those movements in your plan where you like feel like you progress as you get lighter, like body weight dips and pull-ups, because you're actually just, you're making it easier by getting lighter. Whereas you come on a movement like this and it just gets harder because now the load that you're moving is starting to cross that point where it's now more than your body weight, and then it's so hard to stay locked in. But you keep going, you take the hardest steps you possibly can do, and that's all that matters. Oh. Ha. Alright, so we're just finishing off the session now with final arm movements. I just have 3 sets of push down, 3 sets and overhead. Sets that realistically 5-10 minutes it takes you to do, but so many people just either leave it off the end or rush through it or whatever it may be, think, oh, can't be arsed, or such a farce at the end. Like, just put it into perspective, like it really does just take like 5-10 minutes, and it's far better that you actually do that than now, get the work done and actually be quality work, rather than then just probably rushing through it. It's like less time, but then you're getting less out of it. It's like, you honestly may as well like not bother, but don't not bother. You should still do it. So yeah, your accessory work takes a little bit of time at the end of the session, but it's still important, and you need to make sure that you actually give the time to it. You will make yourself later. Yeah. Oh. All right then guys, so that is the session finished. We're just having a little bit of a sit down so that, as I said at the start, I can actually talk you through some things that I think are actually going to be really valuable for you to take away from this video, a little bit different. As I mentioned, I've had a nice little bit of time to reflect a little bit over this past week. It's been 4 years since I took that step from bikini all the way up to figure and made my figure debut at the weekend, and that's obviously a long off season, I think, to a lot of people, and there's a lot of really valuable things that I've taken away from that, and I hope that I can obviously share that with you guys now, or share a couple of things for those of you that are maybe thinking about taking a longer off season, or are thinking about wanting to make significant improvements, whether that be moving up a division, whether that be just being more competitive, going from juniors to open, whatever it may be, you want to make some big progress. There's still a lot of things that you kind of need to know when you're going into those off-season phases, maybe some things that I wish I knew a little bit more, like going in, that I've learned throughout the time, and that's why I'm here, is to hopefully share my experience and to allow you guys to learn things that I've obviously had to go through myself and learn, that I can pass that on to you. So there's a lot of different things. I could talk for hours, and I have done a few podcasts on this, so if you want to hear me ramble, listen to those, but we'll keep it short and sweet with 4 things that I have learned from my 4-year off season. Number 1 is that a long off season is hard work. I think that a lot of people look at long off season, they think, oh, I'm going to take a few years off and I'm going to really make some improvements. And then they get a year down the line and they're just dying to get lean again. You know, they want to get on stage again, they want to rush that process. Like, it is hard to spend long periods of time in off season mentally, but also physically, to actually spend that amount of time still being productive and still making progress. Like, you have to manage your variables really well in order to do that, because otherwise very quickly those phases do become unproductive. Like, you've got no appetite, you know, you're feeling demotivated or whatever it may be. So as much as people sometimes think like prep is where you need to be on it, like off season's where you need to be on it as well. Like, if you want to keep a good appetite, if you want to progress in the gym, if you want to make sure your body composition doesn't get super messy and you're having to pull back, like, you actually can't spend time in a productive surplus anymore because you've maybe pushed things too far, if you've got lazy, like, you need to stay on top of it. And off season done well, and being able to spend a long period of time in off season, it's difficult. You know, it is difficult. So be prepared to actually put in the graft just as much, if not more, than you would do in a prep. You know, stay on top of your routine, stay on top of making your meals nice, stay on top of your mindset work. You know, make sure that you are dialed in that, because it is really, really challenging to spend that amount of time in an actual growing phase and making productive steps forward. So that's the first thing. Be aware it's not just 4 years of relaxing, not when you really want to progress. You know, so be prepared for that first and foremost. The second thing then that kind of comes alongside of that is that you have to be aware that you're going to get uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable in a long off season. So just as I mentioned, one of the reasons why people struggle to spend a lot of time in off season is because they don't like being soft. They want to get shredded again. They want to get on stage. Like, you need to embrace being comfortable. Realistically, you shouldn't be anywhere within 15-20 pounds of your stage weight, really, if you're in an off season. You know, if you're doing a pre-prep or a diet phase, there's no need for you to be getting within 15-20 pounds of stage lean condition. So you're going to be spending a lot of time being uncomfortable, being softer, but you have to learn to love it. You have to learn to love that discomfort and find things that allow you to love being a bit softer and being a bit heavier. The main thing being really loving your training. Like, if you love what you can do in here, everything outside of that, yeah, it's sometimes challenging at points, and you think, oh, it'd be nice to be leaner, it'd be nice to eat less, but it's worth it because of what you're able to do in here. And this is where the magic happens. You want to be a bodybuilder, you need to bodybuild. You need to put tissue on. You need to get strong in the gym. You need to be in a surplus. You're not bodybuilding when you're prepping. You're literally body maintaining and removing body fat. You need to be aware that like it's going to come with discomfort, and you need to lean into that and find things that actually allow you to like seriously enjoy it. Because I got pretty soft in my off season. I needed to leverage performance, and as a natural athlete, especially like a smaller female maybe as well, but for everyone, your body weight is a leverage for greater performance. Yeah, and you need to drive up your performance in the gym in order to put on muscle mass. So you need to embrace that and enjoy that. So anytime that I was feeling like uncomfortable or a bit heavy, I'd come in here and I'd do shit I've never done before, and I'd be like, yeah, like I am stepping forwards. And that's one of the main things that you have to really do, is like lean into that discomfort and find things that allow you to like enjoy that feeling of being comfortable. The third thing is that when you're looking at these longer off seasons, be aware that progress is probably going to take a lot longer than you think. So sometimes people think of long off seasons and they think a year, 2 years out, I'm going to make massive improvements. It's probably going to take a bit more than that, realistically, if you need to make a big jump. So I've taken 4 years, and that's like 4 years of really work, like giving everything. Like I do treat every single day, like bodybuilding is my life and I love it. But like it's taken me that long to make that step up from bikini to figure and put on the amount of muscle that I have. And you know, unless you have got crazy genetics and a crazy response, for most of us, like it takes time to progress. Like it really does. When I came into my off season initially, I was thinking, oh, I'll get back on stage in 2023 and I'll be so competitive in figure. And really, it's taken me 4 years to even just make that step to figure, just hang with the figure girls and see where I'm at. Like, it takes a lot of time, and I got to 2022, so 2 years into my off season, I was like, I've not made enough progress yet to diet down. Like, you've got to put on the muscle mass, which takes time, and then really, like, especially if you're young as well, if you diet down straight away, you're probably not going to have that mature muscle look that you think that you're going to have. You need to kind of sustain it and kind of let it like mature for a little bit. And especially if you're younger, like a big thing with that time is also just getting older. Like you need to get older in order for you to actually present that progress. It's probably going to take a little bit longer than you think, but that's okay, because bodybuilding is all about enjoying the journey of progress. It's not about just being at the destination. And I've really learned that even just doing the one show so far this season. I've just realized like this is my first year making this step up to figure and making this step up in presenting 4 years of progress. Like I'm not going to be exactly where I want to be right now. Like I'm setting my baseline here, and then we keep improving, we keep getting better. Then we, you know, you look to maybe I can win a show, or maybe then I can move up a category. Like that is bodybuilding. Like what is the fun in bodybuilding if you're already there? So yes, the progress is going to take you a long time, but you need to actually take a step back and realize like that's exactly what this is all about. It's supposed to take you a long time. How boring would bodybuilding be if like you literally start bodybuilding for 2 years, compete, you win everything you want, and then you've completed it? Where do you go from there? Like, yeah, you can still keep training and having fun, but what I'm trying to say is that if you're not one of these genetic anomalies and you think, oh, my progress is taking me ages, like, enjoy that. Enjoy that you get this opportunity to progress for 10, 15, 20 years, and that's going to be the case for most natural bodybuilders, and that is the joy in it. So enjoy the fact that progress takes a long time. The fourth and final thing that I want to touch on is the fact that in your off season, please learn, especially if you're taking a long off season, you can live a little. Yeah, you can make really good progress and not have every single moment, second, breath of your day, of your life, all about bodybuilding. And it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, right? If you look at your off season, like, and this is not me saying don't nail your negotiables, because you need to nail them. Like, I'm being serious. Don't get slack with it. If you want to progress, you need to take it seriously, but you can take it seriously and not be so intense. Yeah, because just even like we mentioned earlier, that intensity is probably going to drive up a lot of stress. It's also probably going to mean you're going to burn out. you're going to end up hating bodybuilding. Like, honestly, you're going to end up hating bodybuilding. You're going to feel burnt out. And then what? Like, that's your bodybuilding journey done. And as I just said, bodybuilding takes time. The people who are the best in this sport have been doing it for 15, 20 years. How do you think they've been doing it for 15, 20 years? Do you think they've been doing it for 15, 20 years by never spending time with their family, by never having off-plan meals, by stressing about being a gram over on the scale, by never going on holiday? No, it just doesn't happen. Or they literally like lose the plot if they do that, you know? And those are the people that you see come and go. They come and go, they start the off season, and then eventually they're like, I hate this. That's not the goal, guys. It's not. You can live a little. Put it into perspective. What do you need to do in your off season? You need to eat your meals. Yeah, you need to manage your routine well. You need to recover well. You need to train hard. You need to be consistent. But outside of that, you can enjoy an off-plan meal with your family every now and then. You can go to the cinema with your little brother and have some popcorn with him, like I've learned that I can do. You can go on holiday, yeah, and you can still make sure that you maintain your body weight and you'll be fine for a week or a few days. Like, put it into perspective that as long as you are actually ticking off the things that you need to do, you can actually enjoy normal life. And if anything, that's really important to you actually having that long off season. So as I said again, a long off season is hard. Like, committing to that time is difficult, but you won't make it through it. You're not going to make it through it if you're like absolutely intense, locked in on everything, and you have no life outside of that. In my very first stint of off season I ever did, seriously, before my first prep, I had no off-plan meals. I said no to a lot of family events and things with friends. And I look back and I thought, what an idiot. What an idiot, because I was, let's be honest, I was fat anyway, I was soft anyway, I was eating like 3,000 calories, but then saying no to just go out for a meal with my family that's probably just the same amount of calories as a meal that I'm eating at home. So it's like, that's just stupid. It's just silly, it's unnecessary, and then it makes your family hate bodybuilding, and that's not good either. And I'm very thankful to AJ actually, because he's helped me a lot to learn that those things are okay. Because I think when you live in your own little bodybuilding bubble, which was me, I was very young and I didn't know really any bodybuilders. So in my head, I'm looking at all these IFBB pros and I'm thinking like, oh my God, they eat, sleep, live this. And then I actually started to spend a lot of time around bodybuilders and I realized like, like I can still be a bodybuilder, but it's okay if I want to do a few of these little things here and there, because I'm still nailing all these things. So hopefully if you're in that little bubble in yourself where you think that you can't do all these things, hopefully watching this video has made you realise that, you know, you can still make really good progress, and that's okay. As I say, I could have talked about these things for hours and hours and hours. I've probably rambled on already for too long, but those are probably like just 4 of the main things I would say that I've taken away from this off season. Hopefully you guys can take those on board into your off seasons moving forwards as well. I've really enjoyed actually talking about that. So we'll hopefully do some more of these kind of like sit down things at the end of videos moving forwards. And obviously if you guys have anything specific that you want me to talk about, anything that you want to hear me discuss or give advice on, please let me know, because I'm here to help. I want these videos to give value. They're not just here for me to like talk about me. I want to help you guys with your journeys as best as I possibly can do. So thank you very much for watching. Any suggestions, like I say, shoot them below. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for future content. And yeah, thanks for watching guys. I will catch you in the next one.